but I also want to show some videos that we have of these random areas as well. This first video is out of Arkansas. This is in Joplin, Arizona, or Joplin, Arkansas, where you can see the car has been completely burned out and the hood was missing even. And then this is a tree that was burnt from the inside. I'm slowing it down here so you can see it a little bit better, that the fire is actually on the inside of this tree, which is the opposite of how trees normally burn, which is from the outside in. Here's another tree from the Ozarks, which started on the inside and it burnt to holes onto the outside. But yeah, these flames on the outside of the tree are actually coming from holes that are on the, inside of the tree. And I also have some anomalies that I want to go to here in Western North Carolina as well. So here we have on the left, you can see an old beetle, which is very rusted. It looks like it has undergone what I call rapid oxidation, which is where the metal rusts very instantly. It seems to be an electrolysis effect, actually, where high voltages of electricity actually strip electrons from the metals and cause them to go into an oxidized state. And it does so very rapidly. So what we see after some of these fires are oxidation patterns that look like months worth of rust, but in a matter of days. I also wanted to point out the melted aluminum here. You can see there's some propped up against the car, which may or may not be from the car because this car has steel rims. But we can see on the right side that there is a river of what was once molten aluminum, and it has flowed probably 15 to 20 feet away from the machinery that it was part of. This is probably some sort of engine block or something, which has melted and ran over 20 feet away. Now, the aluminum has to reach over 1,200 degrees to get into a liquid state like this, more likely 1,400 degrees to flow as a runny liquid. And it probably maintained that temperature over the entire distance that you see here, which is very strange for a grass fire, which only burns at about 900 degrees maximum. Now, these are steel beams that are the frame or foundation of what would be like a double wide or a mobile home. These are steel beams, and you can see they are bent and or twisted in some of these cases. That indicates, like I said, temperatures of 2,700 to 3,000 degrees. Here's some more twisted steel beams. And we also have this either heat pump or central air unit in the front. And the reason I included this is to show you the state of oxidation of this unit. It looks like it's been sitting there rusting for months when the fire just happened like last week, basically. That's another example of rapid oxidation, in my opinion, due to electrolysis. A very devastating hurricane. All right. I did want to point out one little thing from that video, and that was a tree in New Jersey that has a perfect ring of fire around it. But you can see there's no embers flying, and there doesn't appear to be any other hot spots in this area. Now, that could be a natural burn pattern if an ember happened to land at the base of the tree. But to me, it almost looks unusual because we've seen this burn pattern before, and it actually seems to be electrical or plasma in nature. But where the tree meets the ground is where it catches fire. And it burns in a little perfect circle around the tree. And it's really unusual, if you ask me. From Lake Adger, North Carolina, this is damage from the fishhook fire. This is a house that was reduced to completely white ash, and there's almost nothing remaining except for, say, that blue planter and a handful of trees around. Doesn't look like any of the trees have actually been damaged, although there is a burnt spot in the grass. Okay, also in Lake Adger, North Carolina, you can see that this car is missing most of its glass. And if you look at the back window, there is a little bit of it draped there over where the back seat would be. I have a better view of this. You can see that the glass did not break. It actually melted as a single piece and is draped over the back seat. All right. So in this view of North America, you can see that there are 753 fires burning. And I believe that's just in the United States, because I think this app actually only covers the United States. But that's a tremendous amount of fires. That's probably the most I've ever seen. And I've never tried to cover so many fires at once before. So bear with me.
The clips we just watched were excerpts from the most recent video put up on the Brush Junkie channel titled Global Fire Event Happening Now. Link will be in the description. There's a lot more to it. It's about a 25-30 minute video. 28:52 to be exact. 3 days before that video we just went over about the worldwide fire events happening, 3 days prior to that, they put out a video titled Florida's Swampy Everglades Go Up in Flames.
And I'll show some more of those details here in just a little bit. In addition to the fire south of Miami, there was also a small fire in Sweetwater, which is just west of Miami. It's on the west side of Miami. This was a smaller fire that got contained relatively quickly, but it was in a much more populated area. So that's probably why someone probably saw it sooner, and they put more resources on it because of how close it is to the population. Another thing to point out is that it is underneath these power lines. I don't know if that's relevant information or not. We'll have to wait and see once all of these investigations come out. There's so many fires and so many things to investigate.
Regarding that fire being below the power lines and not being sure whether or not that's relevant information, this is a video I put out a while back titled Confirmed Electric Induction Started Cali Fire, Man-Made Plasma Fire, where they show you that the Altadena fire started directly below this power line that's actually de-energized. It's been decommissioned for a long time and doesn't have any electricity flowing through that power line. So they say it must have happened through induction from the charged power lines next to it. I propose the idea that the induction is coming from the electrical ground current.
New information revealed today raises another possibility for the cause of the Eaton fire. Never before seen video obtained by NBC4 shows the first moments of the fire burning below a specific electrical tower in the hills above Altadena. Our investigative reporter Eric Leonard joins us live right now with a story you'll see for the first time and only right here on 4. Eric.
What's new here is the perspective. This video shows the first flames were at the base of only one of the towers, which was supposed to be disconnected from power. Now, Southern California Edison has suggested it could very well be part of the explanation for how the Eaton fire ignited. A few seconds of video captured by a resident close to where the Eaton fire started on January 7th recorded flames below one of 3 electrical towers on a hillside. The metadata on the video clip shows it was recorded at 6:14 p.m. from the back of a home nearby. The person who recorded it does not want to be identified. What's significant is that the video clip shows the first flames were burning under the tower shown on the right. That's an old, decommissioned Southern California Edison tower, meaning its lines never carry live electricity. The path of that dead, it says it's exploring the possibility that somehow that dead line was momentarily energized in the high winds on the night of the fire. Writing, SCE is evaluating a number of potential causes, including whether the idle Mesa-Sylmar transmission line could have become energized, and the extent to which that line or its grounding.
Notice the party left out there in the yellow highlighted section that the transmission line could have become energized, e.g. through induction. That part is in brackets and he skipped over that. Induction, but not from the charged power lines next to it, from the ground current. So we've covered some clips from their most recent worldwide fire video that they did 4 days ago, and then their Florida fires video that they did 7 days ago, and then a few days before that they did the Oklahoma fires video, where they show that the authorities knew this was coming a week in advance, broadcast it to the public, and even rallied resources from 5 different surrounding states, and according to one report, even dropped fire retardant before any of the fires started. This proves they know when and where these things are going to happen. But keeping in with the electricity, they said they de-energized the power lines, but somehow the power lines were energized, even though they cut the power, so they're not sure how that's happening. Let's listen to some of the officials try and explain how the power lines are getting energized even after they shut them off.
Right.
So, I want to say that.
And it turns out it looks like it's actually the responsibility is probably going to be pinned on OG&E, Oklahoma Gas and Electric. And I do have a clip from the officials in their press briefing. And we have the governor here who actually did lose his house in this fire. And we also have one of the representatives from FEMA who says something very interesting at the end.
Have you considered asking power companies in the future to maybe look at cutoffs ahead of situations like this?
You know, yes, and they did de-energize some lines, and so we're still trying to track down how do these fires start. We think there were some controlled burns that was happening a few days before, and some things got out of control. We think some of the power lines contributed to this, so that's something that I personally want to look at.
So,
And this is something we also see. They say we're going to turn the power off, but they don't.
right.
They're like, oh, the
Yeah.
winds are so bad, we're going to turn the power off. But like in LA, they didn't. Lahaina, they didn't. They even said they didn't.
Right. And I think part of the reason is so that the power company can be set up to take the fall. So there is, just like every time we have a fire where they blame the power lines, the power company is held responsible, and then they pin it all on them. And
James tells me states like Montana, Idaho, Arkansas, Louisiana, and even Georgia pitched in resources to help prepare.
I mean, there shouldn't.
So now I'm going to show you a collection of news broadcasts that came out during the week prior to the fires in Oklahoma that shows they knew that this was coming, and they even invested resources. Actions speak louder than words, and they're putting their money where their mouth is when they take actions to rally in the firefighting resources from 5 surrounding states prior to any fires even starting. That shows they know when and where it's going to happen. I'll get into some ideas about how they might know when and where it's going to happen. I'll just tell you now, they're monitoring the magnetic field. They know when there's going to be a fluctuation in the magnetic field that creates a surge of ground current along with ionic wind or electric wind. How they know it's going to happen, when and where it's going to happen is up for debate. But when you see how much news broadcast they put out in advance telling you there's going to be fires on next Thursday, and they bring in resources from 5 surrounding states to fight the fires before anything even happens, that proves they know when and where it's going to happen, and it turned out they were right. 140 fires started there on that day. Watch some of these news broadcasts.
they also, on the 13th, they had predicted fire warnings for this area. So this is the NOAA fire weather outlook, and you can see that it covers New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, some of Arkansas. And that actually is relevant because these are the areas that pretty much caught on fire the very next day on the 14th, which is known as Pi Day. We also had a full blood moon lunar eclipse, and it's also the first day of Mercury retrograde for those astrology buffs out there. But anyway, this did affect New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Arkansas, Missouri, and South Dakota. New Mexico had 15,000 acres that burned. Texas had over 60,000 acres that burned, very near the Smokehouse Creek fire from last year, which was 1 million acres. And then Colorado Springs had 2,500 acres that burned right next to the Schriever Space Force base. This isn't the first time we've seen fires right next to a base. We saw Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories had a fire, and then just a week or two ago, Brookhaven National Laboratories had a fire as well. South Dakota had a giant fire, almost 40,000 acres. But the real story is Oklahoma, which had 140 separate fires totaling 170,000 acres. And the one area that got hit the hardest was the area around Stillwater. Now, here you can see the Stillwater area is actually between all these fires. The most affected communities were Stillwater and Manford and a town called Leedy. However, this is the Stillwater area. Stillwater is right in the middle of this picture, and you can see that there's fires between Stillwater and Tulsa and between Stillwater and Oklahoma City. All right, so now I want to go into some of the videos of this fire, and we have some news reports from the week before, and I put a bunch of clips together from the week previous to the fire.
The fire danger here is already at high, but as the week goes on, this dial will likely move even further. It's an all-hands-on-deck kind of week for Oklahoma City firefighters.
We're off and running on wildfires now.
We've been talking about that fire risk.
Meteorologists expect near hurricane-strength winds to sweep across Oklahoma later this week, and no rain in the forecast. Not an ideal combo.
We're really looking at the high winds and the low humidity. Those are two factors that we're looking at for the high wildfire danger days.
This week, Oklahoma Forestry Services warns there is an increasing probability of a wildfire outbreak across the region, particularly on Friday.
We expect any fire that starts on that day to be extremely difficult to control.
Even a tiny spark, a discarded cigarette, sparks coming from a trailer chain.
Or even your car. Chopper 4 captured it last year when Oklahoma City police cruisers burst into flames after parking on tall grass during a chase.
We've even had some outdoor welders that was welding on a fence, and these sparks were flying over on some dead grass, and then we were taken off on a large grass fire.
This week, the fire department's bringing in special wildfire task force teams to get ahead.
And really could be a dangerous weather day just with the strong winds and the grass fire potential. For us locally, as far as a severe weather threat is concerned on Friday, we've been watching this closely. It might stay just far enough to the east that we don't have to worry about severe weather here locally, but we are concerned about the grass fire risk, and that is going to be at a critical level. And again, you got winds gusting 45 to 65 miles per hour. That's enough to knock a few things over as well. We could have some power outages with how windy it is going to be.
OG&E is also getting ready for the potential that we have outages because of the strong wind. They say they've adjusted their schedules and they're warning people stay away from any downed power lines.
Preparations are underway across eastern Oklahoma as the threat of a highly destructive fire looms. Thanks for joining me at 10. I'm Brody Myers. All week, I've been talking with rural fire departments gearing up for Friday's threats.
The state of Oklahoma will be experiencing weather conditions that could result in possible grass fires. I'm Isabel Flores with 2 News Oklahoma, and I spoke to several fire agencies that tell me they're most worried about high winds combined with drier areas like this. Charlie Pearson is the chief of the Rock Volunteer Fire Department in Osage County. He tells me dry vegetation doesn't only make it easier for fires to start, it makes it easier for them to last longer, too. I also spoke to Andy James, the fire management chief for Oklahoma Forestry Services.
It's so widespread. It's going to cover about 3/4 of the state where we have our highest area of concern, but it doesn't mean that we can't see fires in all 77 counties.
James tells me states like Montana, Idaho, Arkansas, Louisiana, and even Georgia pitched in resources to help prepare.
I mean, there shouldn't be any smoke in the air tomorrow other than, a wildfire. I would highly discourage any type of outdoor burning tomorrow. I'm talking charcoal grills, anything of that nature.
Please do not be burning anything today, tomorrow, over the weekend, because we're going to get back into some wind situations next week, and clean out around your houses.
The Rock Fire Department will have 26 firefighters on standby to respond to any emergencies that may arise.
Michael, definitely, we talked about this day a lot this week. We knew it was going to be bad. It absolutely was.
All right. So that last clip was actually from the day of, but all those other clips were from the day before.
Yeah, and I want.
All right. So he also mentions that there was satellite imagery that apparently shows a planned containment line along Range Road, subtly reinforced with fire retardant chemicals that were pre-dropped on March 13th before the fire, ensuring that the blaze spared key infrastructure such as the Stillwater Community Center, which was slated for 15.
So, I haven't seen the satellite imagery from overhead the day before the fire started, but that would be in alignment with what they openly acknowledge. The idea of them dropping fire retardant before any fires have started is in alignment with what they have acknowledged they've done, which is rally in the resources from 5 surrounding states to help fight fires that haven't started yet. They've already invested that many resources. It would make sense that they start deploying those resources in advance if they're going to pay to transport them in and bring them in from the surrounding states. Why wouldn't they also drop some fire retardant the day before when they obviously know there's going to be fires? And it's not just because there's going to be some wind. Never before have we rallied the firefighters because there's going to be a little wind. They obviously know more than they're telling the public. They know approximately when and where these fires are going to occur, so much so that they put their money where their mouth is and take actions that speak louder than words, and they put out these broadcasts to the public well in advance. They're not telling you how they know there's going to be fires. Instead, they're just going, well, there's going to be some wind. It'll probably be a cigarette butt or something that starts it. Clearly, they know more than they're telling. 140 fires started just in Oklahoma, not to mention all the fires that surround in the surrounding states that Shane went over. Now I'm gonna redline it clear to maximum overblove, where I bloviate some craziness that takes us clear to peak foil. Imagine there is a planetary system surrounding the Earth, and the reason that they can tell a week in advance, specifically, when and where there's going to be these fires, because a planetary object passes by the Earth close enough that its magnetic field interacts with ours, creating a fluctuation in the magnetic field that produces a surge of ground current, which we've already proven from Skywatch Media's demonstration, where he shows you online available graphs that monitor the magnetic field, and a separate one that monitors electrical ground current, and he shows you there was a mysterious fluctuation in the magnetic field because we weren't under a solar flare, and the solar wind speed and density were standard, so we don't know why that magnetic field fluctuated on that day, but simultaneously there was a surge of ground current, and Skywatch Media shows you this on multiple occasions. That's in the links that I included in all my plasma fire video, Skywatch Media's explanation for plasma fire. Though he doesn't relate it to plasma fire, he just references the fluctuation in the magnetic field and the simultaneous surge of ground current electricity. Also introduce into the equation electric wind or ionic wind. So a celestial body passes by the Earth and they're calculating its trajectory. They can say exactly next Friday is when it's going to be passing closest to Earth, and at that point the landmass that will be pointed towards it is going to be Oklahoma. So next Friday, Oklahoma is going to have fires. Let's bring in the resources from 5 surrounding states because we know what's going on here and what's going to go down. And sure enough, 140 fires pop up. The wind kicks up from ionic wind, and the electrical ground current creates the plasma fires. This concept is more possible than a guy in a field with a blowtorch looking at you, Tracy. When you acknowledge the electricity component, this explanation has greater probability or likelihood than a guy in a field with a blowtorch, because that doesn't take into account the obvious evidence of electricity. Notice the trees at the first of this video clip are all glowing from the inside without flames protruding from them or climbing up them. And in the latter half of this 10-second clip, you can see the difference between those kind of glowing trees and trees with flames on them. Notice the difference.
Show you how the fire look over there. The forest look completely just glowed up and destroyed. I mean, you can't see much significance of dew weapons, but obviously we're going to get you down into the furthest. Where does all this go? Why is all this happening? What is the bigger picture? And I'm going to tell you why this needs to get out far and wide, because we've identified multiple things to protect community, to protect ourselves, to protect each other in this crazy moment. We're going to need to know a lot.
One more time, no audio, just the video. Notice the glowing trees at the first few seconds, and in the latter few seconds, trees with flames on them. Note the difference. Those are all glowing from the inside without any visible flames. And then you come up on some trees with flames on them. That's what's missing on those other trees, is the flames. One more time, just for good measure. Those trees are not burning with standard fire as we understand it. These trees look more like burning trees with flames. And this may be the cause. This may be the bigger picture. Final Days lady put out a video a week ago, and before that it's been months since she's put out a video, but she's shown what appears to be planetary objects circling us that are not lens flares, and she's shown it enough times. It's substantial. It's real. These planetary bodies having their magnetic field interacting with ours would explain all of the plasma fire. Shout out to Final Days. This was her last video in the summer of 2023, and I think she's probably no longer with us and has succumbed to the illness that she was fighting against.
Welcome to the Final Days. Today is Tuesday, August 15th, 2023. Today we will be viewing FAA weather camera videos that show two different planets in a stable orbit around the Earth. We will be calculating the approximate size and distance of one of the two planets. Also, the Lord wants me to share some very important words, so please watch till the very end of this video. The purpose of this channel is to show viewers that we are living in the very last days according to the Holy Bible. Our first set of images was taken by the west-facing FAA weather camera located in Seeley Lake, Montana, just the day before yesterday on August 13th. As you can see on this map, Seeley Lake is located in the northwestern quadrant of the state of Montana. Each image in these videos is 10 minutes apart. We don't see much here in these images because the atmospheric chemicals in this area of Montana are so thick that they are blocking out everything that you and I are not supposed to see. Even with contrast applied, it's difficult to see the large close planet that's actually right there smack in the middle of this image. In the last few frames, it completely disappears into the atmospheric chemicals out of sight. However, only 48 miles away is Missoula, Montana, where the atmospheric chemicals were not as thick the day before yesterday. By road, it's an 81-mile drive from Seeley to Missoula, but in a straight line, it's only 48 miles away. This same celestial object is much more clear when viewed from Missoula, Montana, only 48 miles away. Viewability of these objects depends upon the thickness of the atmospheric chemicals. Back to the Missoula, Montana video. Here we see a very detailed celestial object with a fast rotation and very obvious craters. We know this cannot be a lens flare of the sun because of its fast rotation and heavily textured surface. These are signs that we are living in the very, very last days. We're living in the very last minutes of the last days. This object can be seen from many FAA weather cameras, including Mississippi, Colorado, Alaska, and other FAA camera locations, as we've seen in the past several times. This object was proven to be between the moon and the Earth in our video from February 5, 2022. It is eclipsing both the moon and the sun daily, as shown in that video from February 2022. That same video explains in detail how daily eclipses occur, but no one sees it. Here's a close-up of that same object viewed from Missoula, Montana. Notice that many craters are on the surface. Also notice that located in the center of each crater is a white plateau or mountain created by the impact of the asteroids pummeling the surface of this small planet or moon.
I'll leave the link to the remainder of that video we were just watching in the description and the pinned comment. This is from the U.S. Masters Golf Tournament final round. This is from the U.S. Masters Golf Tournament final round 2023, 2 minutes and 15 seconds into the video that I will link in the description. We're just going to show this one swing, hopefully avoid a copyright, and then show a little bit more of the still frames, and Mr. MB3 will bring this back up again later in this video. Now, Mr. MB3 includes this in one of the videos that he made, and it looks like they might have added some contrast in order to bring out that big planetary looking object in the sky. But what I just showed you is the original without any contrast added. Hopefully you didn't need your attention drawn to the big giant circle in the sky, and apparently the commentator says, that's a weird cloud. And Mr. MB3 says, I think if that was in the sky, people would have noticed. They don't notice the world burning around them with the trees burning on the inside. So I wouldn't put it past them. And there's that story about how... Okay, I don't know if I forgot to hit the stop or the record, so there might be a little bit of a splice in there. Anyway, a secondary planetary body, or multiples of them, surrounding our planet that could be causing these plasma fires when they come too close, would also be the reason why they might want to sprinkle some chemicals in the atmosphere to conceal it, and put a secondary light source up there to conceal the eclipses that happen. Let's look at some more stuff from Mr. MB3. But first, let's look at one Mr. MB3 put out a couple days ago.
Of 2023. I want to take you guys now over to Scotland. This is rare video footage that was submitted on August 20th of 2023 by Mike from Scotland as he was looking up into the sky, and he was filming the sun behind a thin layer of clouds, thin and thick at times, but the clouds were acting like a decent solar filter. You could see the entire sun without the aid of sunglasses or any type of filter. It kind of reminded me of an H-alpha filter, just a different color. But the clouds were, again, acting as a solar filter. When this happens, just out of nowhere, he's filming from the same location, doesn't move, doesn't zoom in, doesn't do anything different, when all of a sudden, two more circles appear in the video that appear to be suns, along with the primary one that he had been filming the entire time. And then watch over here on the right-hand side, you're going to see the sun pop back out right there. There it is, without its two companions. So how did that do that? Totally bizarre. Again, he didn't zoom in or out. His position remained the same during the entire length of the video. And right here are a few still images when the three were visible in his video. And again, this is probably some sort of a trick of light, I would assume. I don't know how this happened because, again, he didn't change a thing. He was just standing there filming without zooming in or doing anything different when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, two more what appeared to be perfectly round circles, the same size as the sun, appeared down here at around the 5 o'clock position of the sun, appearing to be behind the clouds. And then here's a close-up view of the video that he took when the other two right there appeared, almost ghostly looking views of what appeared to be two more suns below the primary sun that he was filming above Scotland back on August 20th of 2023, just a few hours ago, actually, less than 48 hours ago. He took this video footage from Scotland. Thank you, Mike.
Here's another example from a different channel of what you just saw, except this time there's only two, not three.
Wait a minute now. What the heck? What are the little round balls? What am I seeing? But that don't make any sense.
I think these are far less likely to be lens flares because a lens flare cannot be halfway covered by a cloud. A lens flare is always a full circle. Always. So when you see a lens flare coming out of a cloud and you can only see half of the circle, that's not a lens flare. Also, a lens flare cannot be partially illuminated. Keep that in mind as we watch this next segment. I'm making this video that I've been planning all week. As you'll be able to see, I have videos from Wolf Creek Pass from just about every day of this week showing that these spheres in our sky have been visible from Wolf Creek Pass every day of the last week. It happens that Mr. MB3 put out this video today showing multiple incidents of the same thing. And just a heads up, if the audio and video are out of sync by the end of this video, I'm just going to upload it anyway, so I don't waste time editing.
Sky camera anomalies were submitted by Jonathan, and they're from Colorado. They go back to November of 2022, just a few months ago. But these are worth a second look. I've seen these for years, and 9 out of 10 times I
Consider the possibility that there are multiple planetary objects circling our planet right now. And that's what accounts for some of these reflections, 3 and 4 and 5 of them, all in the same screen.
These for years, and 9 out of 10 times I dismiss these as reflections. But these I'm willing to take a second look at because you can see the obvious reflections in these photos of the sky. This is an FAA camera in.
Notice in the upcoming frames he's going to show you, as the channel Final Days has shown us hundreds of times, a lens flare cannot be partially illuminated. Even this one is lit on the side of the sun more so than the other side. In the upcoming images, you'll see that same thing even more so.
Colorado, and the reflections are here, here, and then a smaller one here. And the smaller one up here seems to be inside of possibly another reflection or something else. I don't know. I can't imagine 2 reflections being right there in the same exact location. There's the sun, there's the large anomaly, and you can see the smaller reflection, and that's an obvious reflection, is causing an anomaly in the anomaly, which is kind of weird. There's another reflection right there. This is a view, once again, from Colorado back in November of 2022. And coming up, you're going to see yet another view of some sort of an anomaly in the camera, at least in the image. I don't know that that was specifically in the sky, but it does look unique. Let's put it that way. I don't see the other reflections in this image like we did in the first 2. You can see the obvious reflections there and there. The larger anomaly is a topic for debate. Let's just put it that way, because it's showing some unusual features that you don't normally see with standard reflections.
I have a surprise for you.
Unusual features that you don't normally see with standard reflections. We've all seen reflections and glares and lens flares and things like that. This one is unique. I'll leave it at that. I've seen these for years, and I've always dismissed them as random shadows or reflections or glare, but this one is unique. I put it in different formats just to simply get a different look at this thing, whatever it may be. And right there, like Jonathan pointed out, it does appear to be reflecting sunlight, and this side over here looks like it's more in a shadow phase, almost like the moon's in a half moon phase. Well, that's kind of what this is behaving like it's reflecting light. And it could be just a camera anomaly. And then he also sent me this. He said this was on live TV yesterday during the U.S. Masters golf tournament. The commentator said, well, that's an interesting cloud, talking about these photos here. And you can see here in the foreground a golfer getting ready to swing his golf club. And this appeared in the field of view of the camera. Again, I don't know if that was actually in the sky. I'm sure if it was, the golfer and his caddy over here would have noticed that huge, what looks like a mothership up in the sky. But I will say this, it is interesting, it is unique, and there's no obvious explanation for that. I'm assuming if that was up in the sky, that would have drawn a lot of attention other than just showing up in this random photo. But either way, it is very interesting. I want to take you guys now over to Scotland. These next photos were sent in by Cindy P. from May 31st of 2023. And you can see there's what looks like a dark shadow up in the sky. This is from yesterday. The camera is facing south-southeast, and you can see what looks like a dark anomaly in the center of the photograph. Almost looks out of place, like it doesn't necessarily belong there. Some sort of a weird round shadow in the center of the photo. So all of these combined, I just received these all in the last 48 hours. These from Scotland. This one here I think was out of Georgia, and then this one here out of Colorado are all very unique. I'll leave it at that, and that's something that we can keep an eye on and see if these are reoccurring at the same time of day. And if they are, other than this one here that was taken during the golf tournament, these here we can kind of go back and double check them on a daily basis and see if there's more of these anomalies showing up at the same time on different days. And then you'll have something being in the sky, or you can conclude, hey, it's a reflection or some sort of a light anomaly, because light is the ultimate trickster. I'm telling you, I've learned that over the years. So we can't just assume that that's some sort of a dark planet up in the sky. Light can be very, very tricky. But either way, these are very interesting. Thanks for sharing. Really appreciate that.
He appears to have taken this video himself. He zooms in a couple times. It's on a channel called Matt Ade, A-D-E, M-A-T-T-A-D-E, very small channel. He produced this a couple days ago.
Show it. Look, there's one. There's one. Where's number two? It's there. Oh, there it is. It just showed number two. 1 and 2. Chase it, look. I see. That's freaking insane. That is freaking insane. This is the second video that called this.
Notice there's 2 lens flares as well as the 2 light sources in the sky.
There it goes again. I want to know how they did it. How did they get a fake sun up in the atmosphere to do this? I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Look, 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 look.
Anti-gravitational technology, the likes of which we are seeing with the UAP Dragons, that can be scaled up.
So I'm back out here again because I want to catch it again. Look at there. Some birds.
Notice the two green dots below the sun. That's the lens flare. And there's two of them, side by side, reflecting the two light sources in the sky, side by side.
I just wish it would focus better. Here we go. Already see one. Already see one. See it up there to the right? Isn't that gorgeous? They're side by side. You see them? I'm going to zoom in. That's crazy. There's one. And there's the second one. Can't tell me I ain't seeing this, because video don't lie. Video don't lie. So there's the second one. The first one's already coming out from the clouds. And
because you can tell that this is artificial sun. It's like two suns actually. Look closely here. That has a specific pattern like an octagon. You'll have to go back and rewind this. And that.
Those were just some clips from a video that will be linked in the description titled Knocking on Heaven's Door. It's a 41-minute, 50-second video. And the next subject I cover in that video is more examples from final days showing these spherical objects in the sky. This is a piece from a video I just put out about how there's gold in them there clouds, referencing the extra celestial bodies around us that Mr. MB3 is tipping his hat to. And since then, Mr. MB3 showed a video where someone supposedly was filming the western sky and filmed something that looked like Jupiter and its moons, but Jupiter and its moons would have had to be in the eastern sky. So that person could have actually been pointing their camera the wrong direction or something. But just check this out. It goes in alignment with everything else we've been talking about here. Yesterday, Mr. MB3 puts out this video titled, Have They Been Lying to Us? The Eye-Opening Truth About Earth's Closest Neighbor. And he shows you 6 or 8 times where people have sent him another celestial body by the moon. Videos of another celestial body by the moon. Let's see if we can get that one. Just watch. He shows you 5 or 6 different examples. For some reason, it's not letting me scrub through. He shows you 5 or 6 different examples where there appears to be a secondary celestial body in the sky beside the moon. Keep that in mind. And in the video where I show you what Mr. MB3 really believes about those trails, he also says he's a believer in the second sun, the black sun, another celestial body that comes around, and he doesn't say this part, but that second sun could be surrounded by planets that are orbiting it and moons that are orbiting those planets. But he said he believes there's a second sun, and it comes through and affects the magnetic field of the Earth. Here is. And this idea that the second sun comes through with all of its own planets syncs up with what we were being shown by the YouTube channel Final Days. And all of those spheres that are seen in the sky on the FAA weather cams that can still be seen, particularly Wolf Creek, Colorado on a regular basis, and other weather cams. But she showed enough of those spheres in the sky that appear to be other planets orbiting our own, that would also mesh up with the idea that the second sun has arrived, and along with it is a bunch of other planets and moons. Is a music video called Outro by M83, and I can't play it, but I can scrub through it for you, and it has, notice, I'll just link it in the description. It has images from what I believe is from the movie Melancholia, where another planetary body comes in, approaches the Earth. It's the Great Wedding the holy harvest, and electricity's coming out from her fingertips. Not now, Jeff. I'm making a video. Electricity's coming out from her fingertips, and it's also coming up from the poles behind her. That other planetary body has its own magnetic field that interacts with our magnetic field, and we experience an electrical charge in our atmosphere. And again, the title of this song is Outro, our swan song. And this brings us back full circle to the video titled Pole Top Fire. Notice from CPS Energy. And that syncs up really well with that scene from Melancholia where the electricity was coming out from the top of those power poles. This is something a subscriber sent me back in 23 where they were sent this notice, said we are preparing for possible high winds and strong gusts and rain in our area tomorrow throughout the day and overnight. Please be aware that even light rain after an extended dry periods increases the possibility of pole top fires. Extended periods of dry spells followed by rain creates pole top fires? Let that sink in. Muse message for this video will be linked in the description. It's called Let It Be by Blackmill. Do you see it? Let it come and let it be. I'm going to cut this off here, include links in the description for the videos that I pulled pieces from. If you're interested in more of that crazy talk, going peak foil, links will be in the description. I gotta let the rest of this video roll. It's only about another 10 minutes of a video made in 2023 about the pole top fires. Notice from CPS, but I think this features the last video by Final Days that we'll ever see. I don't think she's gonna make any more. And her contribution is priceless.
Or mountain created by the impact of the asteroids pummeling the surface of this small planet or moon.
I'll leave the link to the remainder of that video we were just watching in the description and the pinned comment. That was from 6 days ago. You can see that her previous video was 10 months ago. Over the years, she has captured these what appear to be planetary objects in the sky. Many of them are visible without even adding contrast. And the most commonly one available is at Wolf Creek Pass, Colorado. I just went there and saw if I could see it today. You got to hit it before noon because it only shows you the last 6 hours. These planetary bodies that she's identified from FAA weather cams, mostly in Alaska and northern Canada, seem to me legit. Not lens flares. For multiple reasons that she explains, a lens flare can't be partially covered by a cloud. The lens flare wouldn't rotate with the giant craters that you see in them. So these would explain why all the plasma fires. Like, how many times can she capture these and put a little contrast on it and you can see it clear as day? How many times does that take until a person recognizes that's legit? If that was lens flares, you'd be able to point it out other places. They're not lens flares. Something in our sky. And that would explain a lot of what we've seen going on the past few years.
Here's a close-up of that same object viewed from Missoula, Montana. Notice that many craters are on the surface. Also notice that located in the center of each crater is a white plateau or mountain created by the impact of the asteroids
pummeling the surface of this small planet or moon. Take notice of the approximate height of these white structures. They look very high. That's why they show up as a large white dot in the middle of each one of these craters. They're very high, and they have to be high in order to show up on these FAA weather cameras. This same thing happens with craters on our moon. Notice the approximate height of the mountains or plateaus in the center of the moon craters. It's important to notice they are not nearly as high as the top edge of each crater. These structures are located in the center of each crater, but are not nearly as high as the mountains in the center of each crater on the image from the Missoula, Montana FAA weather camera. These crater mountains can give us a rough estimate of the size of this object. The smaller the celestial object is, the lower its gravity, and the higher the mountains inside the crater. Small planets have less gravity than large planets as long as they are similar in density. Thus, the height of the crater mountains in the center of the craters on a very small planet would be much higher than the height of the crater mountains on a much large planet where the gravity is much bigger. Knowing this, we can deduce that this object is much smaller than our moon if we compare the height of the moon's crater mountains to the height of the crater mountains in this image. It would make sense to say that this object is less than half the size of our moon, perhaps about 1,000 miles across, 1,000 miles in diameter. Our moon is 2,159 miles wide. Here is the same celestial object over a 21-month time period. The image on the left is from the day before yesterday. The image on the right was taken 21 months ago in November of 2021. If we place two identical red lines across these two images, we see that the diameter is exactly the same on both of them. This celestial object is no closer today than it was 21 months ago, indicating that it is in a stable orbit around our planet. Another planet that was shown to be in orbit around the Earth is the red planet shown here from the south-facing weather camera in Sitka, Alaska. These images were taken back in 2019, and images like this from Sitka, Alaska are no longer available with this clarity because this area now in Sitka, Alaska is under continuous heavy atmospheric chemicals. More images from the day before yesterday are being shown here in just a minute. I'll just let the images play while I tell you something that the Lord has placed upon my heart. Just because God loves you
mean you are automatically going to heaven. God loves every person in heaven, earth, and in hell. Yes, God loves everyone in hell. God doesn't send anyone to hell. People send themselves to hell by rejecting the Bible, by rejecting Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. The Bible says that neither life nor death can separate us from God's love. This means that God loves everyone in heaven and hell. He loves Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, and Napoleon. He doesn't love what they did while they lived on this earth, but he loves their souls, which have gone on to their eternity. God loves every soul he creates, whether it ends up in heaven or hell. Neither life nor death can separate us from God's love. but we can choose to separate ourselves physically from God for eternity by living an ungodly life here on this earth and by living in sin. When we choose a life of sin, we send ourselves to hell. We have no one else to blame but ourselves. It's a choice that all of us have. For those who aren't sure what sin is, sins are listed at the end of this video. The inbound planetary system that these objects came from is now close enough to cause a dramatic increase in earthquakes, volcanic activity, and extreme weather worldwide. We are all seeing these signs that we are living in the very last days, according to the Holy Bible. In the Bible's book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 25, Jesus tells us that we will see signs in the sky when the end of the age is near. The close approach of this system will usher in a time of God's wrath upon a world full of sin and abomination. Most people won't make it. The good news about all this is that faithful believers in Christ are not appointed to God's wrath, judgments, plagues, as stated repeatedly throughout the Bible. We will be protected from God's wrath either while we are here, or he will take his faithful followers out of here, which is also called the rapture. We have God's promise on this in many places in the Bible. The New King James Version of Luke chapter 21, verse 36 reads, "Watch therefore and pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass." Jesus is referring to God's wrath. He is saying that those who are counted worthy will escape all of God's wrath. The Bible specifically tells us that God's faithful followers are not appointed to his wrath. To be counted worthy to escape his wrath, we must be living in holiness. A link in the description box below discusses what holiness is and how to achieve it. Just click on the More link below to get to that link. The following screens list things that the Bible tells us are sins. And then after that, screens will tell you how to accept Jesus Christ into your life and avoid the wrath of God. Thank you for watching this video.
And the Righteous Truther Award goes to the first person to leave the comment, "She's not a real Christian because she doesn't believe in a flat earth." There are pieces of truth that you can take and leave. No one's ideology is going to be 100% correct. The truth is going to be revealed, and none of us got it all right. But that Righteous Truther Award goes to the first person to say it in the comments. Hurry. And a bonus Muse message is World on Fire by Sarah McLachlan. We part the veil on our killer sun. Stray from the straight line on this short run. The more we have, the less we become. I've done a video just specifically on this music video, World on Fire by Sarah McLachlan. So I'll just leave the link to this music video in the description. The aurora borealis that we've been seeing all around the world for the last year or two kinda indicates that we are parting the veil on our killer sun. When standard solar wind speed and density produces the geomagnetic storm conditions without actually being hit by a solar flare, that appears to be happening. Sarah McLachlan knew something. And whether it's a secondary planetary body coming around or just a cycle the Earth goes through without being under the influence of any other celestial bodies, she still knew what was coming. And it is happening. Tap into the water. Jesus was the living water. Try to bring my share.